We will get started on the Spalding County Board of Commissioners workshop for, I'm trying to find the date. 24th. Oh yeah, my son's birthday, February 24th, 2014. Agenda. All right, we'll have an invocation. I'll do it, and Commissioner Ray, if you do the pledge to the flag, please, sir. Let's stand. All righty, first item on the agenda is continued discussion of revised Spalding County financial policies and procedures. Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, over the weekend I sent you all an email regarding revised wording of the paragraph that we discussed at the last commission meeting. We had hoped to get to discuss this at the retreat, but we ran out of time, and you all asked what we did. What I did was take some information from that last meeting and develop the paragraph in blue. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at it?
Yes.
Yeah. It stipulated what we considered local area: Spalding, Pike, Lamar, Butts, Fayette, and Upson. And it changed it from just services to goods and services. And it says that the commissioners, these suppliers may be given additional consideration in the bid process. It doesn't require them to do it, but it tells them if they do, they may get additional consideration in the bid process. And I think that addressed most of everybody's comments and gives us a starting point to work from this morning.
Does everybody need a few minutes to review it? Or
no, just 1 minute while we're trying to make our computer work.
We have to cut expenses. We operate off the same computer.
They're getting a computer. We're not doing anything to, on the purchase of goods and services?
Sir?
We're not doing anything on?
Yes, sir, it does.
Where did I miss that?
It says,
In the blue?
in the blue it says, purchase contracts for the construction of capital improvements greater than $1 million at 5% for the use of local area subcontractors and local area material suppliers.
Okay.
May be given additional consideration. So that was one of the things you had mentioned at the first. It said goods and services, and then at the last it only addressed services, so we put material suppliers in here as well.
I have a question about that comment of award bids. We have somewhere in our financial policy, I don't know if I'm holding it here, it says that we have an area that deals with informal bids and formal bids. And in the second part of, it says informal bids of at least 3 informal bids or quotes should be obtained for the purchase of materials, equipment, or supplies, which are estimated to cost from $10,000 to $20,000. And then there's a reference in the email that you talked about construction and capital projects greater than $1 million must include the use of local subcontractors. But what I'm saying is when we talk about the award of bids, where we talk about the preference for local residents, and then we talk about further down the preference, and it says otherwise for formal bids are awarded by the Board of Commissioners. What's the difference? I mean, what's the difference in the formal bid and the informal bid? If the informal bid can be done for anything up to $5,000, up to $100,000, because that's what it looks like.
No, informal bids are 10 to 20, and those are awarded by the county manager.
Okay, it says here that under award of bids in the email that you sent us, relating to the preference, and that's the preference for local residents and the preference for area, the preference for area or local, which I have no problem with that language. It says that, you know, if it's under $50,000, it's this. If it's over $50,000, it's this. Otherwise, the bids must be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, taken into consideration. Then it says, formal bids are awarded by the Board of Commissioners. Why is it necessary to have that there? Why does that need to be referenced there? Because does that mean these are, what we're talking about above that is an informal bid?
Correct, and those are awarded by the county manager.
Okay,
But
so.
all that states is the 5% preference. It says the 5% preference for contracts $50,000 and less. If you have over a $50,000 contract, the 5% does not qualify.
But if you are the county manager, you can approve a bid of up to $20,000. I mean, that's what you just said, right?
Back in other language, yes.
Okay, so to me, that's a contradiction. Because are you allowed to make that, to make the bid regardless of whether or not it's a local preference? Because you can award the bid just on the standing of you awarding the bid. You can, if it's under $20,000, you can award the bid. If it's under $10,000, I don't know who makes it. I mean, we're talking about Terry sending the bids out and 3 bids coming back. If it's informal, then you can make the decision on whether or not it goes that way. Or if it's over $20,000, it still meets this same standard. So I just think that there's the language is not clear. And I have a concern about where you talk about purchase contracts for the construction of capital projects greater than $1 million. Why has it just got to be capital projects? I would think that it would be.
That's what you said. That's what you wanted.
Okay, so I'm saying now I have a
You
problem
changed
with
your
that.
mind.
No, I'm saying I have a problem with that because we still might spend $200,000 or $500,000 on a project that's not considered a capital project. Maybe Gwen didn't understand exactly what the definition of a capital project was. So maybe that's why I'm not understanding that, because, you know, if it's going to be for any goods and services in any area, it should be for any goods and services in any area. I mean, I don't see why spending $1 million, we have to put this subcontractor clause in here just if it's a capital project. I mean, any project that goes to that end. And when we looked at the, in the language that you sent us about the awarding of the bids, if we talk about, just for the local preferences, is this the email that he sent us right here?
That's
Oh,
the whole thing.
okay, I'll look at
The
the email.
email is yellow and blue.
Yeah. Okay, the email that you sent us with the highlighted language on it, the yellow was the old language, and the new language that talked about the bid preferences. If someone makes a bid to us, and I'm assuming that must be an informal bid, because, okay, before I get this mixed up, define for me what we're saying an informal bid is.
The blue has nothing whatsoever to do with an informal bid.
I understand that. I'm looking in the area where you talk about award of bids. Is there a definition there for what an informal bid is? Because, I mean, maybe I'm just not understanding what an informal bid is. Can somebody define, can one of y'all define that for me?
Hold on, we'll get back to the. Informal bids, well, there's no page number on this. At least 3 informal bids or quotes shall be obtained for the purchase of materials, equipment, or supplies. Materials, equipment, or supplies which are estimated to cost from $10,000 to $20,000. These bids must be in writing and a record must be kept of bid, blah, blah, blah. But that is materials, equipment, or supplies between 10 and 20,000.
Okay, that being said, if we had a local vendor who was bidding on a job that was less than $50,000, even in that case, you, without having to go through the process, you could make an approval for any contract under $20,000, correct?
Correct.
That, to me, that's contradictory. Because if the informal bid is for goods and services from $10,000 to $20,000, what's the purpose of having the bids if you can just determine it on your own?
I don't understand.
So basically, okay, the way I interpret this is that there's 3 informal bids. And if those bids equate to anything less than $20,000, you have the right to go in and award whoever it goes to, correct? Okay.
But he will have gotten the bids.
You've gotten the bids, okay.
And we will have documentation of the bids,
Right.
right?
And we apply the 5% preference on any bid up to 5,000. Like we said the other day, on the office supplies and the janitorial supplies, that may be only, $600 or $800, but we still apply the 5% rule there.
So,
We just don't apply the 5% for over 50,000.
but, I mean, why not? It's gonna come out to be the same thing.
I
I mean, if you got a bid for $100,000, even at 5%, the most it's gonna be is $5,000.
But you say here that it only applies 50,000 and less.
You know, that's what the paper says. We didn't.
That's the current policy.
Right, we didn't make that policy.
Well, no, ma'am, it's the current policy.
So when I sit down in plain Jane Gwynn English, and I figure if the maximum contract is for $50,000, 5% of $50,000 is,
2,500.
and that's only even at $50,000. Then if you say anything over $50,000 is either 5% or 5,000. Even if it's $67,000, it's still gonna be 5%. Up to $100,000, you'll never go over a maximum of $5,000. If you have a bid for $100,000 and you figure out what 5% of that is, it's gonna be under $5,000. It's gonna be $5,000 exactly.
Okay, this, if you continue reading, let me read the whole thing. A preference may be given to bidders located in Spalding County when the difference between the lowest out-of-county bid and the lowest in-county bid does not exceed 5%, and no more than $2,500 for purchase of contracts $50,000 or less, and 5% or $5,000 for the purchase of contracts $50,000 and more. Otherwise, contracts will be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, blah, blah, blah. So it does, the maximum, if you submit a $300,000, the maximum local preference you get is $5,000. If you submit $100,000, it's $5,000. If it's $90,000, it's $4,500. But the absolute total maximum credit, quote unquote, you can get is that $5,000 is what this is saying.
So if you are bidding on a contract that is $500,000 and you're a local bidder, the max that you're gonna get in terms of being offset from whatever the total is
It's
gonna be
$5,000.
$5,000.
Correct.
Okay, at the very bottom of that area that you just read, William, it says, however, with all of that being said, however, Spalding County reserves the right to reject any and all bids and accept the bid most favorable to the county. Isn't that what we're doing anyway? When we're doing the top part?
we always put that language in any and every bid.
Because,
And that is because you may get a bid from a contractor that does not have good a reputation.
right, so that's one of the things that you determine in getting the bid. You said if you look at all things considered, and the only thing that is different is that here's a Spalding County bidder, here's someone out of county or somewhere else. All things being different, but the Spalding County resident price is higher within this range for the contract. Then if you look at it and give a preference, because they meet that criteria in the window, they get the contract. But if in looking at all things, and they don't have a good reputation, if that is one of the criteria in the bid process, that they have a good reputation, if they don't have a good reputation, they don't meet the criteria at that level. I mean,
So basically, you would know the reputation of the person of the company or whatever going in, basically.
But that would kind of come within your definition of the lowest responsible bidder.
well, that's what I'm saying. When you're looking at the criteria, and, I mean, you told us how you do the bids processes, where you say, did they send their certificate in? Did they have a bond? Do they have a whatever? I don't know what those criteria are. Hopefully, they're not too subjective. But, you know, when you look at somebody's stuff, just because they're local, if you look at this and say, oh my God, they've had an awful time with getting their job completed, to me, that would mean that you're not meeting the same standards as somebody else.
Well, isn't that why you have that in there, though, is just to go ahead and tell
Right.
them if there is something that comes up in our investigation into this, and our looking at the bids, and our looking at your company, you know, if these red flags start popping up, then that gives us the right to say, we're
Right.
excluding you, we're not gonna accept your bid.
But aren't we gonna be doing that anyway? I
Well, I
mean,
mean, that's why it's written in there.
That's why the language is there.
It gives us a way out to protect the taxpayers
And
if we see
we've
something
only
that's not
used
right.
it once or twice before, but an example is the 2009 LARC. We took bids, they were all successful bidders, they all met all the criteria, but we did not have the money to fund the project, so we rejected all bids.
and I understand that, but you rejected it because no one received a contract because of this. Because, I mean, you're saying that we can, what does this say here? We have the right to reject any and all bids and accept the most favorable bid do what's most favorable for the county. You're not awarding a bid then, you're just not gonna award anything. It's a non-award. What I'm saying to you is that you're saying if somebody doesn't have good workmanship or good reputation, in the bid process, that should be something that is objective and is established. I don't know what our bid form looks like, and I know we talked about that, and you know, you guys sitting around and whatever department the bid is for, discussing what criteria the company meets. But if we don't have an objective scale to say that, you know, our bid process is 100%, that's the most you can get, or it's 10. And for, you know, submitting the correct papers is however many numbers, and having a bond is this many numbers, or if it's 4, you know, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4, maybe if you don't have a great reputation, you only get 2 instead of getting 4. So what I'm saying, to try to make this clearer, if you have a scale of 1 to 10, and everybody is perfect, when you look through their bids, everybody's gonna be at 10. So that being said, if the only difference for the person who is a local resident is the fact that their bid may be higher than someone else's,
But if they're within that 5%,
yeah,
they get it.
right. So I guess I have a problem with us saying that we're gonna go ahead and do all this stuff. We're gonna do all this stuff, but yet we have the right to reject any and all bids and do what is favorable for the county.
Chipper's gonna say this right quick. We've been working on financial policies how long? we've had the opportunities
Year and a
to
half.
read through this and read through this and read through, and I'm not fussing at anybody, but I mean, it's like, we keep saying we're gonna have a workshop so we can finish this up, and then we have one, and then we got another whole lot of questions, and I mean,
Well, let you.
and I want it to be right, don't get me wrong, I want the thing to be right, but I'm trying to figure out how, when are we gonna get through with it?
Well, you know what, Chipper? I didn't ask for this to be in this workshop, because as far as I'm concerned, this particular thing that has been brought here hasn't been settled. Obviously, some areas that Bart has some questions about haven't been dealt with. So, I don't know when we're gonna get it right, but it's important that I can explain to residents that it's right. And if I feel that there's some stuff in here that's not fair, or that is redundant.
What is not fair?
That's why I'm asking questions. Why do we say we're gonna do this, this, and this, and this for the bid, but we can just, not give you a contract at our discretion? Do you know what's in the bid process? Do you know what it is that they're looking at when they go through that process? You were the fire chief, so I'm sure you had to be involved with that.
You look at the company, you look at the company's reputation, you look at the company being able to respond in a timely manner, you look at a whole lot of different things that, for the taxpayer of Spalding County and the citizens of Spalding County, that you're trying to provide this building, buy this piece of equipment, provide this service, whatever it may be, you're looking at all of that so that you can get the best deal for the best taxpayer dollar and provide the level of service that the citizens of Spalding County want. And if there are bidders that are going to be, I don't want to say sketchy, but that may be borderline, that may raise a red flag or whatever, and then all other things are considered equal, then I would say that bid would get rejected.
Yeah, but what is objective about that? What is objective? How do I know that today you may not want this person to have a contract because you just don't like them, or you don't like their brother-in-law? That's what I'm saying. There is nothing objective that says.
Well, when we vote on things as members of the Board of Commissioners, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same thing. This is policy. We don't have a policy per the Board of Commissioners in terms of that. I don't vote on stuff and say, oh, I don't like the way she looks, or her hair is not looking that good today, I'm not gonna vote for that. But if we have a standard that says, there's a 20-point total, and these, and these things are judged this way, that's where I am. Where's the difference in the subjectivity and the objectivity? You made a perfect example of that, saying if all things are considered. I don't know what that means.
Should we ask Mr. Fortune? Mr. Fortune, legally, in legal terms.
Well, there's gonna have to be some objectiveness, strike that, subjectiveness, some of this. You get a bidder, for example, and he comes in, and his bid is the low bid, but you find out he's currently being sued by 4 of his previous clients because he failed to perform, or this, that, and the other. You might look at this guy and say, yeah, he's the lowest bid, but my gosh, the last 5 contracts he's had, he wound up in court. What's wrong with this guy? So that, you exercise subjectivity in a lot of what you do. I'm trying to believe you said there have been 2 cases that you can recall where the low bidder didn't get it. No, that was when you said they didn't have the funding.
Well, we rejected, and we just did one for the boiler. We recommended someone other than the low bidder because he could put it in quicker than the low bidder, and the board approved that. So you've always got subjectivity.
But what I'm asking you, William, is that if all things considered, how do you tell whether or not that subjectivity counts for 20% of where you're going to put them on the bid, or it counts for 50% of what they're going to be in, where they're going to be standing? You still don't understand what I'm saying?
Mr. Ray's been raising his hand for, go ahead, sir.
If you look at the entire financial policy, things come together. When you look at it piece by piece, you get lost, or there's a possibility of getting lost, number one. when we go to a formal bid, or when any bid is presented to the vendors, there are certain criteria that we ask for, bonding, insurance, and things of that nature. Those are your objective criteria. I mean, those are the criteria that are being established to judge giving any vendor the, any bid. Once they have completed the bid process and submitted their information back, it comes back here, accepted, and then presented to the staff reviews it, then they present it to us. Then at that point in time, we take everything into consideration based on what the staff has already done and move forward. And, objective versus subjective selection of vendors, I trust the staff to do what they do in accordance with the law. I do not think that we're going by hair color or anything else to consider a bid. And then the overriding thing here is our form of government, which is we don't run the county. The county manager runs the county. We provide the funding, he spends the funding. And that's the way we're set up. And with that comes a certain level of trust between us, our staff, and our county manager. That's why we established the policies in order to facilitate the need.
And hence, there are my questions. Because we set the policies up, to me, they're not clear. You said that there are these criteria that are set up. How are they measured? How are they measured? That's what I want to know. How are they measured?
We have minimum specifications, is what Commissioner Ray's talking about. For the resurfacing, there are state rules that you must meet, and we put all that in there. You must submit a bid bond. You must submit a performance bond. You must submit a payment bond. You must submit certificate of insurance, and you must meet Georgia Department of Transportation rules for resurfacing. Boom.
And is that the only criteria for that?
You've got personnel requirements based on all the state laws and things of that nature that they also.
Well, the DOT is about yay thick, so it deals in a lot of things, but the county, we don't, I'm trying to get at, the bottom line is, what threshold does the Board of Commissioners want to approve? I mean, that's what you're getting at.
And I guess that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't want to sit on the committee that sees the bids or whatever. But I would like to know that if a contractor came back to us and said, here's my form that you guys went over, and I had exactly the same criteria as this other person. And if we made a decision, or if you made a recommendation to us based on a decision that this person has had a lot of trouble with debt or whatever, where is it going to show on that form that that was one of the reasons why they were given less credit toward being the one other than someone else?
You're only going to see those in very large contracts and contracts for services. You're not, 90% of our purchasing is materials and supplies. Most everything we do ourselves. So that...
So in answer to my question, there is no objective criteria for measurement to show how one vendor stood as opposed to someone else who had applied, who put in the bid.
For materials and supplies, we do not get that involved in the vendor's history. No, I mean, if we've had a history with them and they are able to supply it, we issue a purchase order.
And I'm not saying...
And I don't know that have you ever had a problem?
You know what, I can't say that I've had a problem, but I do have had people to come to me and said they put in bids and they didn't understand why they were not accepted over others. And I'm not saying that it's your practice or anybody in the accounting department's practice to practice good old boy politics All I'm saying is, I would like for us to be able to defend that's not what we're doing. And if you don't, if your decisions are made on subjective reasoning, I know that this person's having trouble, I heard that they da-da-da-da-da-da-da, or somebody's bond came back, it's not documented, that's the reason. I don't know that that has to be released, but we don't even have documentation as to why we chose one group over another. For us. So that is my concern.
"99 times out of 100, we choose low bidder." So it's,
Unless it's county, and that would add 5% to it, even if it was.
correct, and that in turn makes it the low bidder.
And that's always been a policy, even when I was working here, you had that 5%.
Well, we have existing purchasing policies now,
Yeah,
which have this 5% preference in it.
Right, it has
So we've
5%.
always, if you wanna buy, toilet paper and Drano, and you send in the bid, we put the 5% to the local people, and that's historically when most of the janitorial supplies are awarded locally.
and a lot of other stuff too, William, because I know when I was working, I sent out bids to people in California for football uniforms and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they would pay the freight to get it here, but like football, you may use 100 extra large helmets and you order 100, but you need 120. They won't let you send those back. You gotta pay the freight. The time you pay the freight to get them back, you done ate up the profit that you saved by doing it. So it was cheaper to put the bid in Spalding County because they would swap it and you could take it and do it the same day.
Right, and each circumstance is gonna be different like that,
Yeah.
just like you mentioned with the helmets. There's no standardized as far as specifications, so that everybody's bidding a brown car with a V8, with an automatic transmission, with a police pursuit package. But when it comes down to, the thing they differ on is their 5-year, 100,000-mile extended warranty contracts on cars, because some dealer may sell them for $800, some dealer may sell them for $1,800. I just don't know that we've ever had a major problem in the purchasing.
Is it wrote up, William, when we send out these things, I don't remember, that you're letting people know, like somebody in Atlanta, if we have somebody that bids here in Griffin, that 5% would automatically be awarded to them if they could, the people here could do it. Is it put in the contract when you mail it out so that they would be aware that there would be a 5% difference? It could be awarded here with 5% difference.
I don't think that's put in any of the specifications, no.
Why, don't you think it should be so that they be aware of it? That,
Now,
a local bidder would be given a 5% advantage over.
preference?
Preference, because, they can come back and say, we got low bid, well, you say, well, we give Kansas Local 5%, so, then we're not notifying them to start with, these people here, and to me, I think they should be, that's just a thought, I don't know whether it's legal or not.
Yeah,
It just,
okay. We can do that.
Is that for
Local
Spalding County?
preferences.
yeah, just say, they will.
Just notifying, I think what Bart's saying is notifying all bidders that there's a
we have a local
5%
preference.
preference for Spalding County, or those that as outlined in our policies, for, just notifying, making them aware of it.
Right, because if they call back down here and said, well, my bid was lower than theirs, well, we gave it to them because they were local and they were 5%. So you're letting them know to start with that they have got, a 5% advantage over you.
I understand.
I agree with that.
Might be a
Understand.
better price.
Yeah,
It might get a lower price, and it also might get us a no bid.
Well,
But that's
if
okay.
they don't bid on it, then, you know, you've done what you could. I mean, there was a lot of times I'd send that stuff, and they send back no bid
No bid.
because they couldn't furnish
Yeah,
half
and
the
we
stuff
still
that was on there.
consider, if they send something back and say no bid, it's still considered a bid,
Right,
when you count 1, 2, 3 bids.
yeah,
Because the vendor made the choice not to bid, not the county.
right.
Yeah.
But I think you're notifying them and letting them know up front that, you know, a local, and they shouldn't have a problem with that, because I expect most counties do that. They would have a 5%, if they could furnish the same material, the same quality as that person from
The
out
same
of town.
exact good.
Right.
You know, same toilet paper, the same copy
Same
paper.
ply.
The same, oh yes, there's lots of toilet paper out there, we learned. But I think the commissioners at our retreat last year had approved everything, and you actually approved it on an agenda as is, but there were some questions about Chairman Flowers, at that time, Chairman Flowers Taylor brought up about the local preference for big construction projects, because we had just let the senior center, and I know of 2 vendors locally who've expressed problems because they didn't get to bid on it. But all the major construction projects, we hire those out to architects who put it out all over the southeast. So, and essentially, we don't try to tell a contractor who he has to use on his contract. We are trying to get the best deal for the county. Now, this new language does say you will get a preference if you use county, but the first language that was in there was mandatory that you must use local contractors. And I'm just afraid, as Chairman Gardner said at the last meeting, that that will increase the price. Therefore, we're not utilizing the taxpayers' dollar to our best ability. And that's why it was changed at the bottom in the blue to say, may be given additional consideration in the bid award process.
Why wouldn't you, and Chairman Gardner did express that to me as well, why wouldn't the language basically say that contractors who use residents or whoever, businesses from the local area? I don't see anywhere in the financial policy that local area has been defined.
I defined it in the blue, right there.
Right, but you don't define it, you just said the local area of Spalding. I mean, Spalding's not the local area, we are Spalding.
Well,
Those were the counties
that were mentioned.
that came up and were discussed when we talked about this.
For businesses located in the local area. So that's the area that we're talking about if someone uses a contractor from.
Well, we can change the wording considered in the local area as consisting of the following: Spalding, Pike, Lamar, Butts, Fayette, and Upson counties. So you could change that language to be definitive. The local area consisting of.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Would that be, would that work for you?
That would help to better define that. I know Chipper had said that he felt like the language that required contractors to, I don't think that we should require contractors to use local businesses. But I think that this language should say that you will be given consideration. But the question is, how much is a consideration? And how is it measured? I'm kind of back to where we were beginning. If we have a bid process that doesn't stipulate that, I don't know if we have points on our bid process. If we say you get 21 points, you're maxed out, or
No, ma'am,
you
we
get
do
10
not.
points. So how does a contractor know that they're going to get a value towards getting them points to get in that bid if they're hiring from the local area? There's nothing in here that says that on your bid process, you'll be given 4 points in this area, or you will get this many more points toward the total number of that we want you to complete by hiring local contractors. There's nothing, you're just saying you may.
Right.
That's no incentive for them to do that. And I mean, and I understand what Chipper's saying, that maybe it may drive the price up, but I find it really hard, I mean, because even if a contract is $1 million and 5% of that project is only $50,000, that's really not a lot in the big scheme of things. And if a project is a project the size of the senior center, or even half the size of that, you have to kind of weigh, is it worth it to this company to give away $3 or $4 million because they got to pay, you know, $50,000, they got to spend $100,000 in this community. I'm just saying, as a business, if I were a contractor, I would be saying, well, how is this really going to help me? How will this help me in my standing to help me know that I'm going to get more consideration as the person who will be awarded this contract because I've contracted with this guy to do my central heating and air, or I've contracted with this guy to do all my computer work or whatever. There's nothing in the language that says that. So it's just kind of nebulous to say that you may get consideration.
Now, what we're talking about here is those bids that would be submitted, and then y'all would compile them, and then they would come to us as the Board of Commissioners to choose that successful bidder, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But we still don't have anything that tells us how they made the recommendation. How William and staff made the recommendation.
The only thing that we would do is tell you whether or not there's any local contractors.
And in the past, you've provided the cost of the different vendors based on the
Yeah.
services services are.
Yeah, we give you a bid chart that says they met all the specifications, here's their bid, and the only thing I would see us doing is putting an asterisk by a bid and saying, this bidder states that he will do X number of dollars with local vendors. And then it's up to y'all.
Okay, William, this local areas, why in Henry County, because it touches Spalding County.
I went straight by what Ms. Gwynn said at the last meeting.
You know,
And this is just wording. I'm just trying to
William
get the
has said that
starting point.
I mean, you know, what do we want it to say is what he's asking.
Well, to
What
me,
does-
I think
what
Henry
do
County-
these 5 people up here, want this to say?
Yeah,
It's
Henry
not
County-
what he said he wanted, it's
I'm not
what,
asking, I didn't
Okay.
say he said it, I'm not saying, I just, you know, I'm sitting here looking, and we keep bringing up these counties. Henry County touches Spalding County.
so it's Clayton County.
Upson County don't touch.
Fairweather County
Yeah,
does
Upson
too.
County don't touch us. So we put
Dutch
that,
County does. What we listening?
No, that's.
Upson
you know,
does.
that was just a question. I'm just asking why was they left out? I mean, you know, because they could say something like, hell, Spalding County don't like Henry County.
I made the suggestion about those particular counties, because those counties, except for Fayette County, are generally economically, it's, as far as their total volume of worth, is actually smaller than ours. And when you go to Henry County, you've got McDonough, you've got Stockbridge, and you really have, I think you have a metro Atlanta County where you have a lot of people who can afford to outbid folks that are in Butts, Spalding Pike. And if someone contracts with us from Stockbridge, there's no necessary guarantee that they're gonna come here and purchase stuff from Home Depot, or they're gonna buy all their equipment here locally, or they're gonna rent, whatever, big backhoes or whatever from us here, because they're still in the metro area. So that's why I didn't include them, the same reason I didn't include Clayton County, because that's, you know, that's Riverdale, it's really part of the metro Atlanta area, and it's a lot bigger financially than we are, and they can afford to really lowball bid any of us down on this end. So generally, if I was thinking, if, you know, someone from Pike bid, they would probably get their goods and services from Spalding County. So that's kind of how I was looking at the counties. I don't have a problem with putting Henry County on there. I think the
just-
whole
Ms.
goal
Ms.
was just to try to
Mr.
help.
Fortune, what legal ground do we have to stand on by specifying which counties we will give preference to? That thought just came to me. I mean, are we in any kind of danger?
No, I think we can do that.
As long as you're good with, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I think
what
we
I'm.
can do that.
I
It
actually
may
asked
create
for
a
it.
nightmare trying to figure out who didn't because you. But
I mean, who
What-
cares if Clayton County gets upset because they're not in our preference
I
list?
don't, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
legally we weren't gonna have a vendor come back and say, you excluded me, I border Spalding County just like Lamar County does. That was my, that was my only
their
question.
legal
But our ordinance
criteria
doesn't
for a
say
bid,
you
if they can either bid or not bid.
Okay.
That's
What,
the way.
why couldn't you just say local area and leave the counties out instead of put?
She just
but-
asked
but-
to have counties
Then
in.
you've got nothing you can define.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that, I know that you're not picking out somebody though and saying, you know, you're not on the list, so you left out, you can.
So the question
You
is
know,
whether or
don't
not
put
we put the
anybody
counties
down.
in or not. Should we put the counties in or should we leave them at court? What should we do?
I think we should.
Okay,
But
so we
also,
put them in.
but also, how much preference are you gonna get?
What do you mean by
That's
reference?
Commissioner Flowers' Taylor question. How much by using local, and we can't, I mean, I guess you could come up with a dollar amount, but
Well, you know what, William, when I talked to you guys about this earlier, and this still has to do, I think, with just what the procedures in the bid process is. If there are no objective criteria to determine for each type of bid, even if it's just for car tires or it's for the construction of a whole building, whatever that encompasses, I don't wanna say maintenance and operation, because that's probably not gonna have anything to do with that. But if you say that if you're able to cover your bond, usually for some things, that's what it is, then that's 25% of what you get to count for. On a scale of 4, like we do on evaluations, you get a 3 for that, or you get a 2
If
for
they
that.
can't post the various bonds, insurance, certificates, et cetera, we don't even consider their.
we don't
bid.
even consider.
Right, but I'm saying
They're out.
but there are some other criteria besides those things.
Right.
Or so if you do all those things that you just named, and that's 50% of what your total number is on the bond.
Then your scale is gonna be very subjective no matter what you pick out.
Right, but still, if we know for sure, if we can say that in areas of, everything else I'll consider, but if you hire locally, and, I mean, it wouldn't be up to us, supposedly, Jenna and her staff are supposed to be creating a master vendor list. And my suggestion was that regardless of whoever it is, just anytime we send a bid out, to send everything out to the master vendor list. If you wanna look at it, fine. If you don't, you delete the email. But it would be the responsibility of a contractor to use this list to make arrangements with someone locally, in this local area that William has identified, to partner with them, so that gives them points or credits toward better able to be able to get that bid. That's kind of where I'm saying, even if you look at all things aside, where is the extra credit that I'm gonna get for coming here and contracting with Hensley Office Supplies to provide that part of
And
my
how much of the total contract are you gonna have to do that? I mean, for example, if you've got a $1 million contract and, I mean, what percentage of the contract, let's use that as an example.
5%.
Well, no, that's not what I'm talking about. If we've got a $1 million contract to provide something, and we're gonna give somebody, quote, preference if they use local labor or local supplies or services, are we talking about that all of them will be local or
No,
not?
5% of the total of the contract
Right.
for local participation.
Right, okay. 5% of the total contract. We have to be local.
Yeah. Either goods or services.
Well, they probably candidly would do what they've done in the city of Atlanta. They'd just come down here, pick some local organization, pay that guy $1,000 to sign on as the local guy to get the preference. He gets his 1,000 and they do the job. nothing's
And,
really
and, I
changed.
mean, you can't stop that.
No.
But our goal is to try and help. I mean, if somebody local is just gonna be a shyster and do that, then you try to help people. But that, I don't think that everybody here is gonna do that way, because I think they need the business. And they need to have their business being seen by someone else, because they don't know where that local contractor, who may be somewhere in another city, might want them to provide the same services. So, I mean, I think the whole purpose is to try to generate funds into the county, generate income from these big projects that come in, and generate services that we wouldn't normally get a chance to bid on, because we don't really have the money in the standing. Our companies don't have the money in the standing to take a whole project like that. So my goal in asking to do that was, you know, if, and I think, and I was told by the Fulton County Chairman also that that's what they do. They have a master list, and this is a project that goes out for the bid. Contractors can look on that list whether they need somebody to do flooring, they need to do whatever. Then they do their own relationship. When they submit the contract, they said, I'm contracted with da-da-da-da-da-da to provide these services. This is how much I'm gonna pay them to do that. And then once we get to look at it, and William has made his recommendation, or whoever, then we'll know, yeah, this is what they bid, but they are also gonna be hiring Flood and Company to do all the lighting at this cost. And at that time, we can say, it's gonna give 8 people a job, or it's not up to us, I don't think, to try to figure out how it's gonna work out in the numbers. That's for them to figure it out and submit to us. And then at that point, we can consider if it really makes a difference.
Let me suggest Bart's kind of coughing over there. I think he needs to clear his throat or something like that. Let's take about a 5-minute break and come back to this.
The foundation of any good policy, whether it's personnel or finance, has to do with the work starting at the bottom up. And when I talked to you last week, and I talked with William and the accounting staff, I shared with them my concerns about some things in the financial policy that I just didn't realize were there until we got on the other side and actually started seeing the nuts and bolts.
That's good.
And when I talked to William and the accounting staff about accountability, and we talked about the purchasing policy, how it was explained to me that when bids come in now, you know, they come in daily or every other day as Terry puts them out, and then they let the bid go out, and that's a trail of paperwork that happens. And once we talked about the possibility of coming up with this list of everything that we're purchasing, figuring out, you know, how much we're spending annually, and then trying to bid those services out, it occurred to me that underneath all that, we don't have any way to track inventory. We don't have any way to know that Parks and Rec is actually using 9,000 rolls of paper towel a year, because they don't have an inventory. That, you know, when they order something.
You're talking about an inventory control system.
Right. And then as I was talking to Commissioner Johnson about it, we thought, well, when TJ had mentioned that they were able to track road projects and stuff like that using Facility Dude, why wouldn't we be able to have a departmental inventory that would back up and justify what we're ordering on the very lowest end? Because we can't really give a good accounting of someone saying every, I think she said every 6 or 8 weeks they're ordering, the departments are ordering. And everybody's ordering the same thing, but they're ordering at different times, and they're doing the individual paperwork for that. But on this end, we can say, yeah, we bought 20,000 rolls of paper towel and it cost us X, Y, Z. But down at the department level, how are they really justifying that in order for us to know that there's no inventory control? Am I using 6,000 a month or whatever? So saying all that to get to this end, about the financial policy. I know you want it to be over, but I think it's kind of crazy to not deal with where we are on this end and not look at any money-saving issues that could help us in getting to the other end. So I know that that's policy. Right now, the policy that is unwritten is that they're doing their purchasing the same way they've always done it. And I was hoping that there would be some discussion about that today because, and since TJ was here, I thought it would be interesting to find out if he thought that that would be a way for us to be able to help track so that we can go from one end to the other in terms of trying to figure out the best way for us to decrease the work on the accounting department and save the county taxpayers money by trying to purchase in bulk. And even from, I think it's a state purchasing office, to maybe even consider using them along with our bidding process. So, and I'm saying all that to say this, it would be so easy to just vote that this thing is perfect.
Oh, no, I'm not.
You know,
saying it's perfect.
this is, we're gonna vote that this is good and this is where it's gonna be, but I just needed to share from my vantage point that I think there's a lot more that needs to be done in this process, and that's in terms of changing just how we do the bid process.
Once the bids have been awarded, we need to come up with a process of trying to track how items are used, how long they last, how much they're consumed or whatever in the different county departments.
Yeah, and that was what I was hoping that we could find out from TJ, but like I said, the other biggest concern was the fact that the awarding, if Terry's got to send out 3 bids on everything that we buy, every time that we buy it, that's just like an enormous mountain of work that doesn't have to be done. And I think that that policy needs to certainly be reconsidered and, let them, Jenna and Terry weighed in on it before, but I think that's some conversation that we as a board need to have.
And I would think, an inventory control program probably would not necessarily be a part of the financial policies and procedures. Maybe I'm not.
Actually, if we start doing inventory, it is an additional layer for the audit, and I'll let Ms. Garrison address that.
If we maintain an inventory of a material amount, then we will have to have a formal inventory count, and that's just an additional cost of the audit.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Now, right now, when the CI or the detention center orders their supplies, they order enough supplies to last them for 6 or 8 weeks until they order again. Is that 6 or 8 weeks worth of supplies considered an inventory?
No, ma'am, it's not a material amount.
Okay,
Material meaning dollar amount.
okay, so,
That's why our central supply, we don't have to have an inventory on central supply because the dollar amount of goods there is not material to the audit.
okay, so, and that's my point. There would not be a requirement for each department to hold any more than they're holding now. If we decided that we're gonna look at all the cleaning supplies we bought for the past year, and it was $90,000 worth of supplies, and we put that order for supplies out to bid, and someone came back and said, yeah, I can do this for $89,000, or I can provide you $90,000, estimated $90,000 worth of services. But each one of these supplies that you've been paying 89 cents for, you're gonna pay 79 or 69 cents for. You put the bid out, and when it's time for Park and Rec or Public Works to get their supplies in 6 weeks' time, they're delivered. You don't have one person delivering every other week. And you're still not keeping an inventory, because that's what they're doing now. They're ordering every 6 to 8 weeks.
I'm not sure if a company would allow us to do that or if they would not require us to take delivery on the entire bid at one time.
Well,
Could
you
I,
know,
let me, not to interrupt y'all, I think we're getting just a little off of exactly where we're supposed to be. Let me ask this, how long do y'all want to be here today? We've got 2 other items that are probably gonna take a little bit of discussion, and we're already at 11:15. just, I didn't know if anybody had somewhere they had to be, Rita, Raymond.
Everybody's always got someplace to go.
Good job.
No, but I'm open. I mean, I can, you just however long we need to be here, but I would like to wrap it up.
I'd like to get through with the financial thing anyway, get through with one thing.
Well, I mean, we really need to get through all three of them, but anyway, I think I follow where you're going with that, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just wondered whether maybe that's something, if you and Jenna could get down and sit down and maybe kind of get your questions answered, and then come back to us, or something like that. I mean, I don't know, I was just trying to figure out a way to
Well, let
help
me
us
just
move
share
along.
this with you. I've had this conversation with William, and I had this conversation with Jenna, and this is my gist of the conversation that I had with them. This is the way that they've always done it, and they seem to think that it works okay. But in Gwen's mind, the taxpayer's not gonna come back to Jenna and William. The taxpayer's not gonna vote for Jenna and Williams. And when something doesn't work or we don't save money, the taxpayer's still not gonna come to them. So if we made a commitment to the taxpayers last year when we got ready to do the budget, that we were gonna try and seriously come up with some money-saving measures that we could measure, then, you know, when are we gonna do it? They're not really wanting to do that. You know, when someone is telling me, when I ask someone about something, and they're telling me how come we can't, and, I mean, because it's been a week, you know, and if you really wanted to check with a vendor to see if anybody would do that before we had this meeting today, I feel like you would have done that. So, and that didn't happen. So, all I'm saying to you is, I'm just one vote, but I'm gonna verbalize my concerns. I've shared my concerns with all of you, that there's a way for us to even consider doing this differently. And I really do feel like it's part of the financial groundwork for us making a difference on the other end. So, but, I mean, if you guys are ready to move on, I'm good with it, because I'm just one vote. But I just needed to say what I needed to say about that.
Mr. Ray.
William, when was the last time the financial policies and procedures were updated?
Probably in the 90s. It may have been in the 2000s when we put the 5% preference in, but honestly, I don't know, and I don't think it states on any of the documents.
Okay. The reason I ask that is our documentation procedures and policies have been, are outdated. And it is up to us to establish the policies and procedures, as we told the taxpayers from the last budget cycle, that we would tighten things up and we would continue to work on those. It is financing or finances is one of those areas that continually evolve, therefore require review, evaluation, and adaptation. I recommend we take the current updated policy as is, move forward with it, and improve it. Therefore, we have a basis to improve from what we now have versus what we did have. And I agree, control inventory is something we definitely need to look at for cost projections, bulk purchases and things of that nature. But we need to move forward. And I think adopting what we have and continually and evaluating it, working on what we have identified in here today will accomplish what we need to be and what we need to go. So with that, I will make a motion to accept.
Well, we're just,
We're just-
it's just for
Right.
discussion, yeah, we're not here to make, this is just a workshop for
My
discussion.
mistake.
No, it's a mistake.
And we can put the blue language in, or with the changes that have been suggested this morning and put it on the March 3rd agenda. But we could take the blue language and add the consisting of for the local counties, and I never got a real sense from the board of whether or not we wanted to add any other counties to that list.
I just asked a question, why you would leave Henry out and put Upson in. I didn't know the economic, I can understand the economic point of that.
Are there any more, y'all, we border on lots of counties.
When you say border though, if they don't touch us, why would you worry about it? I mean,
These are just the ones, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
when we talked about this, and I also look at, if you look at the counties most of our employees come from, these are those counties. So it's just a suggestion, y'all. I mean, we can leave Upson out if you want to, that's no big deal. We can add Coweta because we touch Coweta. We touch Clayton. We touch Henry, Butts, Lamar, Fayette, Meriwether. I think 7 counties we touch.
To me, what would be fair would to include every county that we touch. To me, that way you're not shortchanging any of them. I just don't think that builds bad relationship. Say, well, hell, they put everybody else in, but they left Henry out, and we touch just about as much as anybody else does.
We need a consensus so staff can put this in the policy. So, I mean, Bart says, let's do this. Bart, you say all the counties that are contiguous, which means they touch or border Spalding County. Gwen, I'm assuming, I don't want to speak for you, that the counties that are listed in blue are the ones that you prefer, correct?
I did not know that we touch Meriwether County.
Yes.
What city is that? That's,
Greenville is the county seat.
Going out.
I don't have a problem with putting Meriwether County in. I definitely don't want to put Clayton County in because Clayton County has, I think they'll overbid and out-preference any of these smaller counties, and they'll take the money and go somewhere else with it.
Rita?
I'm flexible, but I'm just kind of curious, are we considered in anybody else's financial policies? Because we wouldn't know that, I'm just wondering,
Usually, it's only within territories, of the way that I've seen it, within corporate, within the county line. If the geographical boundary of the county doesn't generally expound out of that.
wondering, since we're making a big deal out of this, I'd like to be considered in someone else's. But I'm good with what the board decides to do.
I'm good with what we've already decided and talked about, so the current list is good for me.
So the current list is good for you, the current list is good with Gwen, the current list is good with me. So that's 3 of us.
Okay?
All right?
Current list, in blue.
All right, solve that issue.
And what was the language that you were going to do to change that?
Okay. The county has significant interest in encouraging the creation of employment opportunities to residents and for businesses located in the local area consisting of Spalding County, Lamar County, Butts County, Fayette County, and Upson
You
counties.
left Pike out, Pike's in there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading the blue. Pike is under. Spalding, Pike, Lamar, Butts, Fayette, and Upson. 6 counties.
Okay, what about this capital project? Is that got to be capital project, or can it be all? I mean, because if it's a service, I mean, don't we like have a maintenance service for our printers or a maintenance service for our whatever? I'm just, I think that's very limiting. It says only for the construction of capital projects.
Well, but that was,
I know you
that was
said
what brought up this whole, the construction of the senior center is what brought up this whole discussion. And that's why I
So
believe.
road improvements is capital project?
Yes, ma'am. The purchase for, contracts for the construction of capital projects greater than $1 million. That would be a building, that would be building a road, that would be, what else do we do? A bridge, of course.
It's gonna be very
It's only gonna be the great big stuff,
And
which
everybody-
comes to the board.
Yeah, everybody is good with it starting at $1 million.
I'm good with it. Commissioner Ray, Commissioner Miller? Not getting an answer, Commissioner Johnson?
You would prefer that one lower?
I mean, what dollar amounts are we talking about? I mean, it's,
500,000, split it in half. That's a lot of money.
500,000?
Yeah.
Gwen,
Oh,
I'll
Lord.
go with 500,000.
Rita, 500,
Okay.
Raymond,
I'm good with $1,500,000.
500,000.
Gotcha.
Does that slow, I mean, does that cause more, how much more bureaucracy at 500,000?
It,
Tablespoon, shovel full, bucket load.
it's not, because it's,
This is just the land.
Like that?
All right, 500,000.
we're okay with 500.
Okay.
500,000. Cool, making progress here.
Okay, now, Commissioner, I went back and looked at the August retreat, and the August retreat was where we went through this thing painfully, page by page, item by item, for it seemed like 2.5 days. Board at that time gave consensus, and that's the way it's written now. Commissioner Miller has brought back some changes that he would like to see, particularly dealing with limits that the county manager has for purchasing. And so I'll let him address those if that's where y'all want to go. Now, technically, y'all have given consensus to the numbers that are here, so I'm just telling you.
We made consensus to a lot of stuff, we've come back and changed it. I met with some people back before the first year. And probably they taxpayers. And they are people that have a problem with the way the county spends money. So I met with 5 people, and we sat down and went through these financial policies of how much money you could spend and stuff. They can't see why we're increasing the amount somebody, and I'm not down on William. They think that the responsibility should be the Board of Commissioners. We set the limits on it. We tell him what he can spend. So they elected us to look after their money, and that's what they're doing. They're saying, you know, if y'all don't want to do the job, y'all just need to step down and let somebody come in and do it that wants to do it. Okay, you questioned whether it was legal for him to call us by telephone. I'm not saying that we should call a meeting every time something goes over $10,000, because that's the way it's wrote in here. But can he legally, Jimmy, he legally call 3 of us?
Well, he can call 3 of it, but that's not a legal meeting, and if you're going to require that it be approved by a quorum, strike that by a majority of the board, then you're going to have a meeting. You cannot vote over the phone.
Right.
Well, we meet twice a month anyway, so I mean, it ain't something that couldn't be put on hold till the next meeting unless something was real urgent. And if it's real urgent, you go call a meeting anyway.
All right, does everybody understand what Bart's asking? Changing the 20?
Everybody's got a copy of it. I gave a copy to
Changing
everybody.
20,000 to 10,000.
All right, so Bart, you want to change it to 10. All right, Gwen?
I read now, I'm just trying to figure out.
I'm gonna keep it at 20,000 because I really don't feel like meeting, I think, you know, he's hired to do a job.
Okay.
You know, I'm sure we can handle and manage $20,000.
Raymond?
I make a comment now. I got
Okay.
Bart's paper. I kind of agree with Bart, and the reason I say that is because when I sat down with William and Jenna last week, and I realized that there, you know, if a department wants to purchase something, and it does not have to have commission or board approval, if it's under $20,000, or if it's under, I think she said $9,999, they just purchase it, and we don't know about it. And when we sat here in our meeting, and I'm sure that I was the only one, and when we asked how they were going to spend the money to fix the carpet in the library, I didn't know we had a fund for that, and I didn't know it was budgeted for that. So is it my fault that I didn't know those teeny tiny intricacies, that we didn't have to get permission to spend $50,000 for carpet or $20,000 for carpet? Or what's going to stop someone from buying 8 or 9 of something that costs $9,999? Because we'll never know it. So where's the accountability? So, you know, I don't want,
Well, I mean, it would have been bid out. This was bid out through the state bidding process, the carpet with the library.
Well, the carpets, that was $50,000.
Yeah.
So that would have come to y'all regardless. It's just the funding we did through the
We had the
capital
money,
projects.
we didn't know we had the money. I think.
You didn't know you did, you, okay.
Yeah.
You're telling me you didn't know you had a capital projects general fund?
No,
Well, I didn't know we had $50,000 in there. I mean, you know, that's just something. Hey, there's a lot of things I don't know, and I'm not gonna sit here and say, you know, you gotta learn by experience. I learned by the budget about people getting pay raises. I'll never let it happen again, I can guarantee you that. But, you know, there's things that you learn from experience. I learned the hard way.
well, I don't want to be learning the hard way.
All
I'm saying is that, you know, if there have been times when, if it were necessary for William to purchase something, that he can at least let us know that there were some purchases, but I think by law, anytime that you ask 3 commissioners something to figure out what we're gonna do, at the next meeting, you're supposed to vote on it, and I don't think that happens. Am I wrong on that, Mr. Fortune?
Well, I mean, if it requires board approval, calling 3 commissioners on the phone
Does not,
does
you know,
not amount to
yeah.
board approval.
Yeah, well, so, but I'm saying that if that's the case, then, I mean, when he's gotta purchase something, courthouse, jail, bridge, causeway, I don't know what the system would be. I would really like to know it when that's happening. I
What
mean,
dollar amount?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get to.
I mean, that's why the 20,000 is in there, because we spend that,
Because when did it first 25,000, and we went from 25 to 20?
it was 25.
That's what I
yes.
thought.
We dropped it to 20.
So just give me for example, what have you approved purchase on for under $20,000 that you can call off your top of your head this year, William?
Was it the boiler?
No, that's 80,000.
That came
No,
before
I
us.
mean, Jenna approves purchase orders daily. I mean, I don't know, what have you got sitting on your desk?
Today, dog food.
That's not $20,000.
No, what I'm trying to.
Most of that stuff was put on bid though, it was put out to bid to start with though. They just feeling something that they did. We're talking about something that's gonna come up, that wasn't put on bid, put out for bid.
Something that's not budgeted?
Right. See, that front piece of paper, that's what I asked. Anything that is not put on bid, when we do the bid in July the 1st, we approve the budget then. Anything that's not in that bid thing would have to be, anything over $20,000 would have to come back before the budget Board of Commissioners to be approved, instead of you spending $20,000, or $19,000 here, $19,000 down the road. If it was $20,000 spent a year, anything after that would have to come before the commission. It wasn't but $500. It goes over that $20,000.
Okay, that will slow things down considerably.
Well, this.
If they wasn't in the budget, though, it should have been.
No,
in the budget.
I don't understand what you're, what have we bought not in the budget?
I didn't say, I'm just saying, you got,
If it's not in the budget, the Board of Commissioners has to approve it,
it
correct?
doesn't have to be approved. You can spend $9,000 10 times.
If
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
in the
no,
budget,
no,
you
no,
can't.
no.
Two different things.
When's got, okay, Jenna explained, when we talked to Commissioner Flowers Taylor last week, there are certain thresholds that we use for certain budget line items. And I'll ask Jenna to explain those thresholds to you, because that's where, I think, Ms. Wynn, I think you got a little confused between where it goes in the budget versus if it was in the budget to begin with. I don't, like desk, we talked about desk last week. If someone buys a desk and it's $600, Jenna, what line item does it get charged to?
Small equipment.
Small equipment.
We basically, in order to keep juvenile from charging the desk to departmental supplies, and the sheriff's department charging the desk to capital, and administration charging the desk to small equipment, we came up with threshold amounts so that they would know, okay, this one item dollar amount, it's under $250, it goes into departmental supplies. It's between $500 and $4,999. It goes into small equipment. And if it's greater than $5,000, it goes into capital. That's simply so everybody will know where to budget these items. They're not unbudgeted.
Okay, but the point that I made to you guys was that when we see the budget and someone, somewhere buried in that budget, somebody needs to buy, they really need 20 desks. But they buy 2 desks, 1 desk, 3 desks, and this is for CIA, CID, or DEA, or whoever it is. We don't know that. Because if you're gonna, in the whole year, you're gonna buy 50 desks for everybody that works in the county, why you just didn't buy 50, contract out for 50 desks?
But our policy says you cannot break down your bids to facilitate that type of thing. That's in the policy.
No, that's what is happening, is that they're breaking down the bids. Instead of them purchasing 50 of whatever it is that they're buying, the sheriff's department is buying 2 this month, and then the sheriff's department is buying 3 the next month, and then county extension's buying 2, and we're all buying them basically from the same place, and it's under the radar. That's what I'm talking about. That was my concern, because we don't see that when it comes to budget time. But when people call, taxpayers call us and say, why is everybody in the sheriff's department got a new iPhone? Why is everybody in the sheriff's department getting new carpeting in their office when they just had carpeting 2 years ago? Y'all don't get that. We're the ones that gets that.
I think that's what William explained, that they do have to request that on the line item detail sheet, and y'all don't get that during the budget process. That's what's in that file that we refer to whenever you're asking, questions about what makes up this line item, and we pull it out of the file.
But you'll get it this year.
Well, I hope so. And I hope
You'll
we
get
know
it
what
this
it, I hope we know what it is when you give it to us.
Well, I mean, it's just, it comes down to how much of the day-to-day does the board want to get into?
I want to get into enough that we can actually show people that we're trying to be good stewards of their money. The same way that we would budget in our household is the same way we budget taxpayers' money. That's my only concern. And I hope nobody is taking this as a personal affront to them. But, I mean, this is for me, this is the crux of why we're in the shape that we're in. Because we have policies that we don't even know are here. We have policies that are way outdated. And when someone tells me that we're operating on a finance policy that's 25 years or longer, and in that amount of time and that amount of technology, that's still working for them, I got a problem with that. Because even me with my limited IT knowledge can't barely turn the phone on, knows that that's outdated. So, I understand what Bart's saying. If it's gonna be a hardship, we'll find out about it soon enough.
All right, go back to the original. Bart wants 10, Rita is okay with what's in the policy, Raymond's okay with what's in the policy, I'm okay with what's in the policy. When you said you were kind of leaning towards Bart, but you had, I didn't get
You're good, you
Okay.
got a consensus.
All right.
Okay, any other changes?
Who is the administrative service director?
Jenna,
I thought she was financial director.
her formal title is Administrative Services Director. She handles the finance.
Well, I know, but there's no finance in that, so that's the reason.
No,
I thought she was the finance director. I think I've already asked that one time.
it's just an updated job title. It's not. No duties have changed. I mean, it's an updated job title, and we did that when we put IT under Jenna, and we put
Budget, purchasing, risk management.
risk management, all those kind of things under Jenna.
All right, sir, anything else on financial policies? Anything else from? All right, hearing nothing, we will go to item 2 on the